are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue. It's Thursday, April 25th, episode 225, and we have more to talk to you about here today. So, I mean, it's an interesting time of year because you don't have all the stories coming out like you normally do, especially how we're used to it during the NFL season, right? We usually have loaded, packed shows. We are trying to find the best content possible for you. There's some stuff going on, but it's slow in terms of content. We had a tough time getting hits and misses together, but I think we got some good stuff.
I think it's a good show. It's a good show, and it's a weird time because you're kind of in between. It's like the draft is tonight.
The draft
if I put out draft content, in 10 hours it's useless.
Like next week,
useless.
Next week we'll have like a little dump of things to talk about. Like
yes, absolutely.
Players in new spots and what that means for some teams. So it's gonna pick up here quickly. This is like the last week of dead time really before we kind of start getting more into how things are gonna look this year.
I love the NFL. They have made it a full year-round thing that needs covered.
Yeah,
it's not a seasonal sport like March Madness, college basketball. I don't think about college basketball until I don't know what, like mid-February.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, like I start keeping an eye on it like beginning of February, and then March Madness obviously you follow it.
Yeah,
but like NFL is not seasonal like that at all.
No, there's about like 2 down months, and we are just coming out of it now. So. More packed shows to come, I would say. So make sure you're following all the social media, the Instagram, the TikTok, all that good stuff. But for today, we're going to start off. Tim's rant is going to be on Caitlin Clark, kind of that situation around her in the draft. Obviously, the first overall pick in the WNBA draft. And then we will get into hits and misses to close out the first segment. Into the second, we will have our favorite five NFL teams right now out of the 32 that we think are Super Bowl teams. So who could win the Super Bowl? Who's in that bubble?
A little way too early top 5 Super Bowl bubble.
Brought to you by SoBet, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And then we will discuss the Penguins, their situation, the travesty that has been the Penguins, the last 2 years, and how it just hasn't gotten better, different ways that we think it could get better, and the moves that they're going to have to make to do so. And then we're going to finish it off with a little last call, a new thing that we're trying out, starting it this week. It was Tim's idea. I think it's going to be pretty fun. Just kind of non-sports related discussion at the end, 5 minutes.
Go to cap the show. It's a good last call.
But
it's a nightcap, if you will. Kind of like, what's that, Shannon and Ocho Cinco's podcast, isn't that called The Nightcap?
I think it's
called The Nightcap.
But that's episode 225, so start things off for us.
Yeah, so, I mean, well, you talked about it. We kind of touched on it. The NFL is not seasonal, right? And that kind of, numbers don't lie. We talked about, you kind of introed it, right, the whole Caitlin Clark thing. And I'm not a huge women's basketball fan, but I saw a video of Caitlin Clark shooting from the logo when she was like a sophomore at Iowa. And granted, did I subscribe to like Iowa on ESPN Plus or whatever? Am I like, getting a subscription to Big Ten Plus to watch every Iowa women's basketball game? Absolutely not. But if I see it on the channels, I'll watch it. I definitely make it a point to check her, box score. Watch some highlights of her. I find her interesting. Her style of play is fantastic. Much like Steph Curry, I like Steph Curry. Not that I don't like watching LeBron or Jokic or whatever, but I can't relate to somebody that's like 7 foot. That's just it doesn't do anything for me. I can shoot the ball like Steph, not physically, but I'm able to try it, right? I can't try to dunk. I can't try to windmill. I can't be LeBron. So I find Caitlin Clark highly relatable, fun. I like the style of play. And so I've been following her since her sophomore year. Obviously, she's got a lot more popular since then. These past 2 years have been insane. And we just watched an SNL skit with her. Like, that's big time. Women's college basketball player on SNL. She's got her own signature shoe through Nike that's in the works. So, and then that's what brings me to what kind of pissed me off a little bit is you go in the comments, which I don't know why I would read comments anyway. I don't. I try not to because it's just a bunch of idiots, right? A bunch of people that are just mad at the world. And you just saw a lot of, Aja Wilson or, WNBA player X doesn't have a signature shoe yet. Why is that? And I'm like, because if you put 10 women in front of me right now, I could not pick out Aja Wilson from a lineup if they were wearing name tags. She doesn't move the number, right? Nobody cares about her. With all due respect to her, she's better at basketball than I'll ever be. And she probably has endorsements. She's probably making great money. More than I am, more than I probably will, right? Good for her. Could not tell you who she is. Couldn't find her on social media. Like, I have never heard of this woman in my entire life. Evidently, she's a pretty good WNBA player. Okay? Has it gotten anybody significant, any massive viewership to a TV screen? Absolutely not. 14.2 million people watch Caitlin Clark in the national championship game. I'm sure South Carolina brought some of those people to it, but it got the biggest number in history, in the history of women's college basketball, because of Caitlin Clark, right? She gets people to a TV screen. She gets people to watch the games, consume the content, buy the jerseys, buy the shirts, buy the shoes. She is the star of the league, and she just got drafted into it. So why doesn't the second best player on the team in Memphis have a shoe? Because I don't care about her. Because nobody really cares about her except for the diehards, right? Nobody is actually following those games, following her play, following her stats, right? The numbers don't lie. We could talk about fair this and equality that, and, well, if she has one, then it does not matter. It's a consumerist, capitalist world out there, right? If you get a number, if you make money for the league, for your company, for whoever, then you will get more of it. It's very simple. Right? It goes back to the whole, like, well, we're not asking for equal pay. We're asking for equal split. Okay, well, then you guys are going to take a pay cut if you're going to get equal split. Because right now, percentage-based, you make more of the total revenue of the WNBA as a players' association than the NBA does. So I don't know what to tell you, right? Make more money, right? Make more money. And so anybody that's mad that Caitlin Clark getting this and the preferential treatment that, it's because, yes, she's the star. She's going to put WNBA on the map for a large quantity of people, right? The NBA was dying before Jordan, right? Well, before, I guess, Magic and Larry Bird kind of started it, and then Jordan killed it, right? In the 70s, the NBA Finals were on tape delay. Right? Tape delay. Could you imagine that? Like, the Super Bowl, yeah, we'll put that after the nightly news. We'll just tuck it back there. We'll delay it. That's what happened with the NBA in the mid-70s. Bird, Magic come along, they're fantastic. Jordan comes along, and now the NBA is massive as we know it. You need a star, and this is WNBA's star.
Yeah, it really comes down to generating revenue. If you can't generate the revenue, you have a big problem. And look, the fairness aspect of it... Is you good over there?
I'm dying.
Did we control it?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, the fairness aspect of it is not, what should be in question. Are they great at basketball? Are they great at what they do? Sure. But, like, the sad truth and the sad reality is, if nobody really cares about it, it doesn't matter if you're the best, and it doesn't matter how good you are in general. If you can't make you money, it's not going to make you money. If it doesn't make the organization money, you're not going to see the benefits of that. It's something that's extremely frustrating because, the argument gets redundant. You hear it so many times, and it's always the same thing, but yet they refuse to look at what's actually causing the issue and instead just blame it on, well, it's not fair.
Well, you see it all the time. Well, this lady has the same job title as that guy at that company. Okay, well, that company's Apple, and yours is a startup, so yeah, you're not going to make the same based on, I don't care if you work the same hours with the same job title.
But it says CEO, it's not the same thing?
Right, exactly. Doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, I like Caitlin Clark. I don't care if people hate her for getting her own shoe or getting preferential treatment. She deserves it. She's a star. She's going to save the freaking league. So the reason you guys are all going to be able to get paid and have a job in the future, for all you middle school, high school, current college women's basketball players, the reason that you have a chance to make a living in it is because of Caitlin Clark. She's going to save the league. So you can bitch, moan, and complain all you want, but she's going to be fantastic for the league.
Yeah. Are you all good over there?
I'm okay.
Have you recovered? Can we get into hits and misses now?
Yeah, I'm good enough.
All right, let's
go.
Ready.
We'll fight through it.
All right, hits and misses. Let's go.
All right, hit number one here. The Jets have officially cut bait on Zach Wilson. They trade him to the Broncos. I didn't even bother to look up the return. I'm just realizing that now. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I mean, it's got to be what, like a 6th or a 7th? Now I have to look it up, right?
I mean, there's no way he garnered anything over a 7th.
I mean,
or a 6th. I'll give him a 6th.
You give him a 6th? I'm clicking on the story now. Let's see if they have it. Let's see if they have it. I have a feeling there's something's going to play really loudly on here, so I'm going to preemptively turn this down.
Well, look at you.
Did it say? Okay, so there's just no actual story.
So they just gave him away.
Can I get a real story here? This is ridiculous.
Anyway, yeah, we were right in the fact that Zach Wilson is horrific. Looks great against air on a pro day. Not so much in the league.
Okay, so the Jets got a 6th, but they had to also include a 7th with Zach Wilson. So it was Zach Wilson in the 7th for a 6th.
Okay.
What a useless, but anyway, my point being, I said when he was like the number 2 prospect, and was like, oh, well, the Jets should draft him. And I said, why should the Jets draft a smaller version of Sam Darnold, right? Reckless, moves a lot, doesn't actually do any of the fundamental stuff well. It's like he's a smaller version, a less physical version of Sam Darnold, and they drafted him, and it was obviously an issue.
Sam Darnold was way better than Zach Wilson. I'd take Sam Darnold any day.
I don't understand technology sometimes. Anyway, miss number 1 here. On the flip side of that, though, I thought Trey Lance was going to be really good. Is he the 3rd-string quarterback in Dallas right now?
I've lost track of where
he is. It's like Dak, Cooper Rush, and I think it's then Trey Lance is the 3rd string. See, I never thought he got the most fair shake of everything. I just think you brought him in to replace Jimmy G. You let him sit, and then he comes in, starts 2 games, breaks his leg, and then you bench him again as when he comes back from injury. I don't know. I understand that Brock's been good, but I just don't feel like Trey ever got his fair shake on it. But either way, it's been a miss. I thought he would be the most successful quarterback outside of Trevor Lawrence in that class, and that's been not true whatsoever.
I agree, but also we legitimately just said last camera cut there. What is fair? There is no such thing as fair in professional sports. Ill-timed injuries like that. Oops, sorry, that's your career sometimes. Also, it sucks, but it's the truth.
I also have a question. If you could redo the picks for the Jets and the Niners, they're at 2 and 3. Who would you even take though? Because Justin Fields hasn't been that good.
No.
Mac Jones is a backup. They're all backups now. So it's like if you had to redo that pick, who would you even take? Probably Justin Fields and Mac Jones. Can you really justify taking Mac Jones at 3?
I think it's just become evident that every year, no matter what draft it is, everybody gets so hyped up about this one quarterback that's going to be great from that. Sometimes there's just draft classes where everybody sucks. Where it's just, you'd rather pass on a quarterback this year.
I guess that's what you would do. All right, hit number 2 here. The Bill Belichick thing. I said a year ago? I said just fire him, cut bait, fire him,
build the statue,
move off him, build the statue. Bill, thanks for your service, but we're done here. This is a joke, and they finally did do that. So that's a hit, obviously. But then, secondarily, Robert Kraft is out there dragging his name through the mud. Have you seen any of his stories where he basically told Falcons owner Arthur Blank, "Hey, don't hire him. Don't hire him. He's going to be a headache for you. You can't trust him." So that was the first story that came out. And then you hear he said basically the same thing to the Commanders owner. So it's like he is unhappy with how it ended with Bill. And I said that's exactly what it would be like with Bill. And I don't feel bad whatsoever. Thank God. I could not stand the guy for a decade and a half, and to see him get what he had coming to him feels really good. It feels good.
It's just always so rigid and annoying.
I would agree with you. I would agree.
I don't know. It's just, also just a little FYI out there to anybody who's wondering, I wouldn't put Robert Kraft down as a job reference.
No, that wouldn't be a good idea.
Dude says it like it is.
He's very clearly pissed at Bill, which, again, I understand, and I'm with it. Miss number 2 here. I used to like Travis Kelce a lot. I was like, oh, he's fun. He's kind of like the new age Gronk. Gronk was really fun. Would go out and party and do all that fun stuff, which was weird because he was in really rigid, boring New England with Belichick.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Travis and George Kittle, they're kind of that next wave. They're really fun. They're interesting people. I found Travis Kelce to just increasingly get more and more unlikable. I just find him to be so unlikable. Graduates from Cincinnati, chugs a beer on stage, and then slams it on the ground. It's first of all, it's half full. If everybody's ever chugged a beer, you understand that there's foam and stuff, so it's not actually empty. and when you slam it, like, it's gonna make a mess. Like, have some. Is there like a little bit of him that's like walks into a situation and goes, yeah, I'm gonna respect this situation? Or do you think in his head he was just like, nah, I'm gonna ruin this entire moment for almost everybody in this arena?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand it. I feel like he thinks he's a lot cooler than he is.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the Taylor Swift stuff hurt him more than anything, at least with me, and the perception I have of him.
I didn't even mind that.
It's almost like I've seen him too much and heard from him too much to the point where I'm just getting pissed off. Like, I'm just ready for like
you're kind of done with
I'm ready to unplug from it.
You're kind of done with him. I completely get
like, if I see one more New Heights podcast clip in my feed,
yeah, you're kind of done with the whole story.
I scroll past it now. I even do the hold, and then you click like the not interested. You ever seen that?
I've never done that.
So that way you don't.
What is that?
You get stuff out of that TikTok.
Interesting.
You get it out of the algorithm.
Oh.
So I've been trying to do that with Travis Kelce. I've been trying to cleanse myself of any Travis Kelce.
Oh, I didn't even know you could do this.
Yeah,
just a real feature.
Yeah, 100%.
So on the middle of it, you just press and hold.
You press and hold on the video, and then you scroll and you click not interested, and it won't put anything like that in your For You page.
Interesting. Yeah, I just find him in situations, he just thinks he's so much cooler than he is.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm not a big fan either.
Makes it a lot about him. That's what kind of pissed me off with the graduation thing. Very arrogant. I don't like that. Hit number 3 here, and also side note back to miss number 2. The whole Pfizer thing, like,
yeah,
you're kind of a bitch, but whatever. Anyway, hit number 3 here. Good. Deion Sanders. I've never been a huge fan of Deion, and I said it's kind of. I feel like he's making a really good looking house out of glass. Like, I just don't know how sustainable it is to just rely on hype and social media and like these fun videos. And now, like, I'm entertained by him, absolutely. I'm in the entertaining business. I consume what's entertaining. So, like, for me, consuming college football, he's been fascinating. I just don't know how sustainable it is in terms of building a winning program. Right? That's always been my concern. And he's losing guys to the portal left and right. 14 players in the last, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, which is most of any team that have now transferred out, including players like that Cormani McLean, who's gone out and been like, yeah, I just wanted to go to a program that didn't build off clicks. And that's been my concern. It's like, it feels like there's not enough substance to go along with like the style and the flash of it.
Right. It's the big new flashy thing in the room, and now people are realizing, oh,
it's not that flashy.
I can't win championships here. It's Colorado. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to go compete with the SEC.
Yeah.
You're going to go compete with the Big Ten.
I don't know enough to say that Colorado's doing this, but also things that you're starting to see in the NIL and the whole, like, pay-to-play thing. Let's be real. It started as NIL, which is like, hey, name, image, likeness. So you have a popular name now. So you can go do a promotion at some bar restaurant. They can use your name. They can use our logos. And you can get paid for that because you're popular from our school. Mm-hmm. That's like what it's supposed to be. Or it's like, hey, you can go sell your own merchandise now because it's your name, your image, and your likeness that you can profit off of. We can put your name on jerseys, all that fun stuff, right? That's what it was supposed to be. It's turned into like, hey, we have this like really rich dude that wants to see us win, so he's just going to like pay for some players. Mm-hmm. And so what's happening is that really rich dude owns 3 car dealerships and some real estate properties. And so you come in with the promise as you're going to get a new car and a free house to live in or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's actually, hey, you can lease this car. You know, you have a free leased car and you don't have to pay rent on a house that you don't own. You're a tenant in the house. So it's like, these promises like aren't getting fulfilled to what they thought they were going to be fulfilled at.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what's happening in Colorado, but it's been happening elsewhere, and it's just, I think it's the Wild West out there, and you're seeing the repercussions of it.
Yeah, I think when anything new is released like that, right, you see like the big hype and the craze over it, and it expands really quick. But then when it's not well supported and constructed underneath, it tends to crumble back down towards the mean. So I think, honestly, it's probably going to be a better thing for the sport now that we're seeing NIL crumble a little bit.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, it's not a Ponzi scheme, but it's like a Ponzi scheme when it's working is good for everybody involved. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody loves a Ponzi scheme when it's working.
Including
obviously,
the economy.
Everybody gets paid out. Economy loves it. Like, everybody's getting paid. It just, if you pay in March, you got to wait till December to get your payout or whatever, you know? But, like, it's when it crumbles that it's bad. So, miss number 3 here, Browns over the Chiefs. Why would we looked back, the Browns over the Chiefs on the pre-playoff power rankings?
Now, to be fair, we used to do these like really early in the morning. Maybe one of us forgot caffeine that morning.
We must
didn't
have still
say
been
that.
asleep. Either way, they're going to have... Looking forward to this year, that won't be the case because they got to pay Deshaun Watson almost $64 million against the cap. I just wonder, real quick, we got like 30 seconds, where would you rank them in the AFC? I'm putting them at
20th?
like... what?
Or, in
the AFC?
No, I was
like,
thinking
wait a minute,
NFL.
how many...
I was thinking in the entire league.
Oh, no, I think they're higher than 20th. I would put them at like 7th or 8th in the AFC, though.
Ooh,
I think they're fighting for a wild card spot.
I don't even know about that.
What would you go, like 8th or 9th?
Yeah, I don't think they make the playoffs. I think the AFC North is way too competitive. I mean, you're gonna have the Cincinnati Bengals, who got forgotten about last year because of injuries. You're gonna have the Ravens, who got better, the Steelers, who got better, and the Browns, who are paying that much money to a quarterback.
Chargers got better.
Chargers got
Not
better.
in the same division, but I'm talking in the
The
AFC.
Chiefs are still getting better.
Texans
somehow.
have gotten better.
Texans have got better.
Colts get Anthony Richardson
Jags
back.
have got better.
Jags, I would argue, have at least stayed the same, which is competitive.
The Bills
got a little worse, but they're still going to be good.
They're always good.
Dolphins are going to be competitive. Jets should be better.
Like, you can't
Patriots
really
won't
do
be
much
good.
here.
If the Raiders get Michael Penix, you don't think
No.
they're better?
Yeah, they are.
Exactly.
But like, the thing is, did you see that absolute huge signing that the Browns made? One of the best defensive players in the league, Devin Bush,
No shot. What a
new
troll.
linebacker over there.
I don't like how they gave all that money to Jerry Jeudy either. I didn't think that was a smart decision.
No,
So.
they're
The
doing,
Browns are browning.
They're doing Browns things again.
Doing
it's
Browns
awesome.
things. I love it.
It feels good.
Love to see it, guys. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll have our favorite 5, talking about the way too early Super Bowl bubble. Our 5 teams that, as of right now, as it stands now, way too early. Who could we see being in the Super Bowl bubble? And then we'll get into a Penguins discussion, followed by a last call segment. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back in. Second episode in a while, and it feels good to be back. Even better than the first episode since we've been back. And we're just gonna keep building. You know,
Yeah.
it's what's the athletes say? There's levels to this. Is that what they always say?
Mm-hmm.
There's levels to it, and we're ascending. I feel good about being back. What is it? The 24th of April now.
Yeah, we bumped the rust off. It feels great to be back.
Well, it's the 24th of April. We appreciate you coming
25th.
and watching or listening, whether that be... Is it 25th?
25th.
I believe you. I don't know. Okay, there it is. I see it. It's the 25th. Sorry about that. I could just open my eyes, but I find it better to just ask him, and evidently he doesn't know either. But that's besides the point. Watching, listening, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, blah, 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 iHeart, all of it. We appreciate however you are here. Give it a like, give it a follow, subscribe, send it to a friend, do all that fun stuff. It would certainly help us, and, well, you know, we appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. We got a pretty good segment here.
We really do. We'll have the favorite 5, or 5 favorite, whatever you want to call it. It's alliteration. It can go either way. Favorite 5, cool. I'll run with that. And so we'll talk about our 5 teams way too early for the Super Bowl bubble, and then we'll get into some Pittsburgh Penguins discussion. Obviously, did not make the playoffs for the second straight year now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Kyle Dubas, the new GM, obviously getting heat for that. Some of the star players, we'll talk about all that. And then we'll get into a little new segment called Last Call. Just a couple minutes at the end to really wrap it up. Nothing about sports, but just kind of chill and talk about some different stuff. So.
You know, if we wanted to go for more alliteration, we could call it the favorite 5 franchises for the season.
I think it's too much.
Some may argue that.
I'd argue too much.
I argue the more alliteration, the better. We're going to get into a very important question here at the end, and alliteration beers is top of the list.
I don't think that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into the favorite 5. If you are new here, any type of list we always do, we always start at the bottom and work our way to the top. Now, is it ranked? Yes. But I think it's not that heavily weighted in terms of the ranking. Right? Like, this is kind of just the 5 teams. If I had to rank them, this would be the ranking. But it's like, what 5 teams have a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl as of right now? Because I think at any point in time in the league, there's 5 or 6 teams, maybe 7, that have a realistic chance to win.
Shot.
Right, and I think 5, if you really get down to the nuts and bolts, 5 have a true chance. So let's start with number 5. I think the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Joe Burrow is going to be the most healthy that he's been in a long time, having, basically forced rest for the majority of the season last year. So he'll be back, healthy, ready to go. Jamar Chase is yet another year in the NFL, another year of experience. I have no reservations about him improving on an already great player. I do worry about the T. Higgins thing a little bit. Is he going to play? Are they going to trade him? How does that all work out? If he does play, do we have the full motivation behind T. Higgins, that's a problem. You lose Joe Mixon, that's an issue. I think they would be number 2 if those things were kind of ironed out. So there's some loose ends that I do worry about. But the defense can't possibly be as bad as it was last year. Kenny Pickett was atrocious and had his best game against them. So I don't know if they can be as bad again. So this is mostly, hey, Joe Burrow is really good. Zach Taylor's shown to be a good coach. Jamar Chase is fantastic. And they match up really well versus Kansas City, who obviously is somebody you have to get through. So I think Bengals at 5, realistic chance when you have a top 3 to 4 quarterback.
Yeah, and a lot of people have forgotten about them too. I mean, just because you have that year that's very injury riddled, and you tend to fall out of like people's the forefront of their I guess mind. It's just like once you see them start rolling and the Bengals play the way they have been the last 2-3 seasons without like barring this last year. I mean, that's a scary team, and that's a team that's due to make a really, really deep playoff run and then actually win a Super Bowl. So,
guess we'll see. Number 4 would be the Niners. Yeah, I mean, they have probably the best roster in the NFC. I worry because I think their quarterback has a limited ceiling. I said it last year.
That's still the problem.
Yeah, that was the problem last year. I said that I think they're good enough to get to the Super Bowl, and they'll probably play Patrick Mahomes. And in a one-game scenario, Brock Purdy is not talented enough to win against Patrick Mahomes. Like I still feel the same way about that. Mm-hmm. So I would put them at 4. I think they have one of the best rosters. I do worry a little bit with them aging, and there's some aging stars that are getting expensive. Kittle's, I think, the number 1 or number 2 cap hit as a tight end in the league, and I don't view him as a top 3 to 4 tight end anymore. Still a really good blocker, still pretty productive, but he's probably not worth all that they're paying him. Debo's good, but they're paying him a ton. Ayuk's going to want a new contract. Is he even there during the season? So a lot to like. Again, some loose ends that may prevent them from being higher, because I think the Niners and Bengals would have been 2 and 3 ahead of the next 2 teams had they had those loose ends kind of wrapped up.
Yeah, but the problem is it's the same loose ends. It's the same problems. Like, they're attacking it with the same playbook and style and, like, MO as they did the past 2 seasons, and it just hasn't worked yet. Like, they are banking on making it to the Super Bowl.
They're so close.
And then banking on that game just going their way and falling their way and being physical enough. Because once the game turns physical, the 49ers win that 9 times out of 10.
Right, and I feel like the Niners and Bengals are so close, but for different reasons. The Bengals have the quarterback, and not that much else, right? Like the Jamar Chase, like decent O-line, defense is but it's like, I mean, it's the Joe Burrow show. Mm-hmm. The Niners have a great roster, and then you're like,
God, like the quarterback.
Is he the guy? Like, is Purdy gonna?
Well, he's not the guy. He's not the one that's gonna carry them. But unfortunately, he's also the guy that's gonna lose the game.
That there's a possibility. Number 3, the Ravens. I think when you have an MVP type quarterback, really good roster, solid foundation, good coach, I think you're always in it. And this is one of those where I think normally, if you would ask this question last year, I think the Niners and Bengals would have been above the Ravens. But getting Derrick Henry, you have a good run game now. Your offensive line's always fantastic. And Lamar just continues to get better from the pocket. Now, granted, I thought the MVP season was underwhelming last year. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, he's still a fantastic quarterback, probably top 5 or 6 quarterback in football. It's one of those where, now again, we don't do a ton of NBA, but the discussion before the Nuggets won the championship was like, I don't know if Jokic can do it in the playoffs. And then he did it, and now he's unquestioned a top 10 center of all time. Yeah. He's unquestioned the number 1 player in the league. But like a year before they won it, it was like, can he do it in the playoffs though? So Lamar, it's like, the question is fair, can he do it in the playoffs? But until he does it, that's always going to be the question. Yeah. And I think he can do it. So I'm going to take my chance to say that he's going to do it, or at least get close enough to where we say, okay, we can respect him as a playoff quarterback now.
Yeah. It's just, there's, like you said, no sample size to choose from there, or to look at.
He's got, 5 playoff games, and he's been, I think he's 2 and 3 or 3 and 2, something like that.
I mean, it's not impressive.
He's been super average to slightly below average.
But you also have to realize that, the great ones, that the Tom Brady's, the Patrick Mahomes, in the playoffs, there's nobody better. You're not going to find anybody better.
Right, and people are always like, well, look at Mahomes' stats versus Lamar. It's like, well, that's you cannot compare anybody to Mahomes. It's like Derek Jeter, for all of his flaws, wasn't great defensively, hit 30 points higher in terms of batting average in the playoffs. There's just nothing that explains it, right?
When the bright lights come on and the situation is the biggest and it means the most, those guys get it, and they are there.
Yeah, I think the Ravens have a top 5 roster, top 5 quarterback, top 5 to 7 head coach. So I think, yeah, they definitely deserve to be here on our favorite 5. Number 2, the Lions. I think they are the Niners, but a little bit better. I think it's a more cohesive unit, right? You don't have Ayuk that's going to sit out, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown's all in. And I would say keep your eye on them poaching some T. Higgins from the Bengals, another team on this list. If you're Cincinnati and Detroit says, I think they're drafting like 27th or 28th, here's our number 28th pick for T. Higgins. So they would obviously have to sign T. Higgins. If you're the Bengals, do you do it? And if you're the Lions, do you do it?
I would. I think that's a mutually beneficial trade. That one.
The Lions may have to throw in like a 4th or something else like that, but that's
Either way, I think the culture in Detroit is strong. I think they are. That's a team that's going to be competing for the next 2-3 seasons.
Yes, it feels like a roster that's very comparable to San Francisco, but with a much better quarterback. I think Jared Goff's a much better quarterback than Brock Purdy.
I think a much
bigger,
better culture.
Stronger. Yeah, I think he's So I would go Lions.
I love it. I think that team. We have been on the Lions we've had the podcast for we're going on 4 years.
I feel like for the last 3, we've been at least positive regarding the Lions.
We've been watching this Lions come up for a while now, and it feels good.
Well, because I've been a Jared Goff guy forever.
Yeah.
I've always liked Goff more than most.
That's true.
And same thing with Kirk. I've always been
good.
Kirk more than most.
Jared Goff's better than Kirk now. I think so. Look at that season. They're in the same division. You can look at that.
Yeah, but I mean, Cousins got hurt last year, so I don't know. I don't know. That's close. I think at this stage in his career, Goff's a little bit younger. I would agree.
Goff has won a Super Bowl.
Been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. They lost that.
You're right. I'd probably lean Goff. At this point, certainly Goff.
I'd go Goff.
Total body work, I'd probably go Goff too.
Yep.
All right, number 1, Chiefs. Obviously, best quarterback, best coach. Arguably still a top 3 tight end, even though, again, we just talked about how I'm not a huge fan of him. Defense basically won the Super Bowl last year, so kudos to them. That's an actual real unit now. Even losing Snead, I don't view it as a real problem. Yeah, there's our top 5.
I mean,
there's not a lot to say about
the number Chiefs. 1 isn't a very flashy pick. I mean,
no, and people were crushing me like, oh, congrats. Like when we picked the Chiefs over the Niners, first of all, it was
preseason.
It was preseason. Everybody was like, oh, congratulations, you picked a Vegas favorite. And I was like, okay, well, for two things. One, I'd rather be right than just be, like, wrong but interesting.
And trendy.
What's the benefit of me being like, you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm going to take the Titans to win. Because then you'd all be crushing me like, Titans, do you even know football? So then I pick the favorite, and they're like, wow, what a cop-out, just picking the favorite. It's like, okay, well, pick a lane, because you can't be in both.
Yeah.
Right? You can't be in both. And then also, oh, congrats, you just picked the Vegas favorite. I somewhat at least understand that. If I didn't predict it to the exact letter of what happened. I said both would have good seasons. They'd both get to the Super Bowl, obviously. And then I would say Brock Purdy would be really good throughout the entire year, but not good enough to win it in the big moment. And what happened?
That's exactly what happened.
He was really, really good all year, was a top 5 MVP candidate for somebody who should not be a top 5 MVP candidate, meets Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and looked like the completely inferior player in the Chiefs won. Yeah. So it's like, I told you exactly how it would happen from week 1 all the way to the Super Bowl.
Before the season started. And it's not like you just said, yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. It was you picked the matchup and then picked it correct, and then the mode.
Yes, the mode of it. Brock Purdy would be good, but not good enough.
So, yeah, run us back down the list.
From 1 to 5, Chiefs, Lions, Ravens, Niners, Bengals. There's your little way too early favorite 5 Super Bowl bubble.
Love it. All right. We don't do it often, but, it's the NHL playoffs. Pittsburgh,
I don't even know the matchups. Keep going.
We are big Penguin fans. Love hockey and especially love playoff hockey, and just both now utterly disappointed on the current state of the Pittsburgh Penguins franchise and where they stand. Kyle Dubas comes in, switching as a GM. A lot of hope. Everybody was very excited. Thought that this guy would finally be the one.
You enunciated that weird.
What?
Kyle Dubas.
Kyle Dubas.
Isn't it Dubas?
I'm pretty sure it's Dubas.
Dubas.
Yeah.
Is he French?
He could be.
French-Canadian, maybe?
Maybe.
Okay, continue.
They're prevalent in the NHL. But either way, we thought that he was going to maybe make some of the big moves, do some of the things that previous GMs have been a little hesitant to do, like getting rid of big-name players that mean a lot to the city, i.e. Malkin, i.e. Letang. So, you expect those things to happen, and change to happen, because obviously we don't want a repeat of what happened last season. We can't miss the playoffs again. The Penguins had the longest streak in the NHL of going to the playoffs prior to 2 years ago, and then completely lost their way, completely lost their direction. You go hire a new GM, you have the highest hopes, the best hopes, finally change things. You get rid of Gensel, and this is what you get. This is what happens.
Yeah, it's certainly underwhelming. Sorry, real quick, just to go through the playoff brackets so everybody knows, what the hell is going on here. Florida and Tampa Bay, Boston and Toronto, Rangers and Capitals, Carolina and the Islanders. That's in the East. In the West, we have ourselves Dallas and Vegas, Winnipeg and Colorado, Vancouver and Washington and Edmonton and the Kings. Not that I honestly do not care about really any of those teams. That's why we're talking Penguins, not Boston Bruins. I don't know anything about the Bruins. I don't care. But yeah, no, you expect a change. And he did make some tough decisions that, on people that a lot of fans liked. I think, didn't we get rid of Dumoulin? Got rid of, this is a little bit further back, but Justin Schultz was gone. He got rid of a couple other players. And so you're like, okay, well, he's making the changes, and everybody was uncomfortable with it. But I don't think he made any real changes. You know what I mean? Like, he made some fringe changes and just brought in different players that are around the same skill level, right? Like, yeah, we got rid of Dumoulin, but then we brought in some other defenseman that's good enough, right? So it's like you're replacing it with just a different version of the same player, right? You're not making any sweeping changes unless you talk about the four big names on this team, and that's Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, and Erik Karlsson. And then you could even lump just the entire goaltender position in with that, because obviously in hockey, that's, it's like quarterback almost. Center and goalie are the two most important positions. So we'll just lump the entire goalie position in there. So those 5 spots, until you make a defined difference and change in those spots, nothing really matters.
No.
Right? And so I said this, how long have I been saying trade Malkin? I feel like it's been 2 years now.
Yeah,
and he went on a stretch last year, and then again this year, where for like 10 games in a row he looked like the best player in hockey. Mm-hmm. And I said, deal him now while you can. Now, granted, this year's was after the All-Star break, so I understand it, but the year before was not. It was before the All-Star break, and I said, or not the All-Star break, the trade deadline. Sorry. Go get your most value for Malkin. You can go get some good prospects and a good, solid rotational third-line player that can actually make a difference. You can go, move Malkin, Letang. I think Letang has to go. I don't view him as a good defenseman anymore. Whatever. Karlsson, I would call up Ottawa and see if they'll take him back. He's making $10 million. I'd say we'll eat 4 of it. Will you take him back for $6 million a year? I mean, anything. We'll throw in an extra pick. Give us back something. Give us back your 14th best prospect. We'll call it a day, right? Like, it's clearly not working. But I think we all know what the actual real problem is. Are they willing to make the change at head coach?
Yeah.
Are they? Do you think they are?
I mean, they haven't. They were never hesitant to move off head coaches. I mean, we got rid of who was it? Mike
Bilesma,
and then there was one more.
Mike Johnston.
We got rid of in the middle of the season. Then we went on to win the Cup.
Yeah, that was the first. That was when what's his face took over. Sullivan. Mike Sullivan. Yeah.
It's just in hockey, it seems like voices go stale in the locker room.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
They absolutely can.
You partner that in with the lack of goaltending, and you can really tie it back to the mistake that was made 3 or 4 seasons ago when they chose Matt Murray to keep over Marc-Andre Fleury and started that whole train wreck, because then Murray went on to be abysmal.
Yes.
And then you had this guy in the building. You had this guy in the building that came up to be pretty good by the name of Tristan Jarry, and then now he looks horrific. Who got his job taken by him from what is it?
Alexander Nedeljkovic.
Nedeljkovic, yeah.
Nedeljkovic, something like that.
I look at it on the jersey and I'm just like,
yeah, I don't know. We just call him Ned.
I don't know.
People call him Ned. Alex Ned.
You need to have a better solution at goaltender.
Well, I would agree, and so. Yeah, I mean...
There's a lot of things that need to change.
So, yes, right? And so there's 2 things. And one of the things, I think Dubas would have already moved off of Sullivan, but I think the Fenway Sports Group has something... They're, like, in love with Sullivan. I think there are orders from above for Dubas not to move off Sullivan. So I think one of 2 things can happen. One, Dubas says, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to fire Sullivan. 2, they basically forced Sully to say, hey, you got a clean staff. Everybody has to go except for you. You have to go hire an entire new staff because clearly this isn't working. I'm blanking on the name of our power play coach, but we were horrendous in the power play this year. Absolutely awful.
All year we were
on the power play. With that
league.
much talent, how can you, I think, how many teams are in the NHL? 30?
30.
I know we were second to last, so 29th on the power play this year. Unbelievable. And we led the league in shorthanded goals given up. So not only were you bad on the power play, you were hemorrhaging goals on the power play. Like, what are we doing here? Right? And that goes, and the same thing, in the same general vein, is that they were awful in overtime games. They were like 3-10. They were like 3-10 in overtime games. That's horrendous.
Yeah.
That's horrific. And then you heard a story come out that they don't even practice at a practice. What are we doing here? What are we doing? How can you not practice overtime? It's 3-on-3 hockey. Mm-hmm. It's fun. How do you not practice that? I don't get it. I don't understand it. So for those reasons, I think it's either Sullivan's got to go or they're going to make him clean staff because these are things you can attribute to coaching. Overtime and power play. That is coaching. Absolute coaching.
That, and of the older players, the only one I would keep is Crosby. That's it.
It feels like the Golden State Warriors a little bit, where it's like build around Steph Curry, everybody else on the market.
Yep.
Sidney Crosby, everybody else could go. I know you'd like to keep Rust. You'd like to keep a couple. Obviously, Bunting, you just got him for Gensel, so it's like, well, we're obviously going to want to keep him. I'd pick 3 or 4 guys. Crosby,
Rust, and Bunting.
I'd say Sid, outside of your guys, Gino and Malkin, or Gino and Letang, outside of those guys, you can pick 2 other guys you want to rebuild around. Everybody else on the market. Period. End of story. That's it. Sid, go pick 2 young guys. They got to be under 25. It's you, those 2, and everybody else on the market. We're cleaning house. This is it. Mm-hmm. This is it. We want to build around you for another 3 years, make a run. We'll sign you to a really, really nice extension. Go pay him most in the NHL. I'm fine with that. And build around him in a young core.
Yeah. This one needs to happen. You shake it up. When they won the Cup in 2016 and 2017, they were kind of the forefront in the league and changing the way hockey was played and bringing that new style. Fast speed. They had the smallest guys, but they had the fastest guys with the highest hockey IQ.
Hagelin,
and it worked.
HBK line.
It worked.
Hagelin, Bonino,
and Kessel.
That
was a great line.
Loved it. Connor Sheary on the top line was fantastic.
That was good.
Oh, fantastic. Tom
Bonino.
Kuhnhackl was a good piece, huh?
Kuhnhackl,
oh, man. Justin Schultz. Oh, God. We could keep going.
Schulte was pretty good that year.
Do we dare start naming, like, early 2000s Penguins right now?
Sergei Gonchar?
Brooks Orpik?
Okay, we're done. This is going to take
Alexander Goligoski?
We sat down at the bar. Actually, this will be a good segue.
Ben Lovejoy?
We sat down at the bar, Derek England, and for
Daniel Sprong,
an hour and a half, went through all the old Penguins rosters from like 2015 dating all the way back to
Max Talbot,
like 2000.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which leads me right into this. This is our last segment called Last Call, new today.
Pascal Dupuis
sitting at the bar having a beer. What are your favorite top 5 favorite beer moments? Top 5 favorite beers?
So, yes. The question is, what are your top 5 favorite beers? But it's not what is your top 5 favorite, like, kinds or brands of beer. It's what are your top 5 occasions of drinking a beer.
Okay.
Right? So, I'll give my list first. Give some context. You'll understand what I'm saying. If you don't understand what it is.
Do you want to go 1 for 1, then 2 for 2?
Yeah, that's good. We'll go I think we start at 5, right?
Okay, yeah, we'll go 5.
Okay, I'll start with number 5. I'll go the Forgotten Crisper beer. When you put it in the back of the crisper in the fridge, do people still call it a crisper?
Yeah.
Like the veggie or the cheese, that one, the long one, or you have 2 in your fridge,
The
right?
one that crisps it.
Yeah, the one that's hidden back there. It's like an old,
freezing cold.
Yeah, probably out of code. Probably shouldn't drink it. Freezing cold, absolutely. And it's probably your last one. If you're digging in the crisper, you're down. You're down bad.
That is.
You dig in the crisper, you find the one really cold. It's a Coors Light, and the mountains are royal blue. They're not just light blue. No. They are so. That thing is so cold.
Kentucky blue.
The Forgotten Crisper beer.
Okay, I like that one. My number 5, very original. The next one,
I don't hate that.
It's not an occasion, but it's just
a little vague, but I like it.
Whenever you can just go and just snag the next beer. Like, it doesn't matter where you're at. Whenever you know it's going to be more than just a sit down, have a beer or 2 kind of night, where it's like that walk to the fridge becomes almost a religious experience.
Love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, one of my side note, one of my goals in life is to get a dog to be able to get a beer for me.
That would be sweet.
God,
I
I'd
would love to train
love
a dog to
it.
do
I'd
that.
love it. See, I like cans more than bottles, though, and so that'd be a problem. I'll have to switch to bottles because of
You'd be
dog.
shotgunning a lot of beer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, number 4 for me, I'm going to go long day shower beer. The long day part's, definitely noted because this can't be an everyday type of thing because then it loses its luster. It's got to be after a long day. It's got to be warranted. I have one of the little suction holders in my shower for my beer.
Got one of those, too.
It's beautiful. I have one for you, by the way. Sorry, not to make it weird, but I do have one for you. Yeah, after a long day, you go in there. If you're a sit down in the shower type of guy, then do your thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I am. Sometimes I'm not. That's more rare. But even just standing there, got to be a long day. Shower beer.
You're not a sit down in
my
the
number
shower
4.
kind of guy, first of all?
Sometimes, not often. Not often.
Sit down in the shower with a crisp
Couple
Miller
times a
Lite.
year.
Oh,
Couple times a year, I'll
good.
sit down in the shower.
Okay, like after a long day, like working outside, like yard work type stuff.
Sure.
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 Yeah. My number 4, I'm going to go hunting beers. Now, not wild hunting. That's wildly illegal. But just like afterwards, you come back, you were out in the woods all day. You're feeling the country music is just flowing, right?
Yeah, love that.
Like it's just the setting of it. It's what you did before the beer. And then you sit down. It's fall at that point. If you're,
Usually
if
with
you're
some
whitetail
buddies.
hunting. Yeah. You sit down. You have 3 to 4 hours ahead of you of just nothing but emptying the refrigerator
Love that.
and telling stories about the day. That's
Probably
it.
a Saturday night, too.
Probably
so
a
you
Saturday.
got Sunday to do nothing.
Yeah,
Love
just recover.
that.
Hunting
Yeah.
beers, number 4.
No, that's big. Number 3 here. Now, this is I'm going to do explain this. There's some decent vocab words in here. I would go the first buzzed beer of an accidental inebriation. Now, let me explain. Let me explain. And you guys will all relate to it when I explain. Has anybody ever been like, you text up a buddy you haven't seen in a while, and you're like, hey, let's meet for a couple beers. Next thing you know, you're on beer 3, and it starts dancing a little bit. You're like, oh, am I getting buzzed? And then you look at him, and he's like, are you getting buzzed too? And you're like, I'm getting buzzed, right? So you guys are both feeling it, and then you make the executive decision that we're going to get messed up tonight. Right? We're going to get kind of demolished.
But it's in the moment that you decide.
But it's in the moment you decide it. That first beer after you decide that you're going all in, it's that you push all your chips into the middle and say, I am committed on getting drunk tonight. That first beer after that, where it's like, okay, this feels good.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry. Because at that point, you're like, okay, well, you're talking with your buddy to discuss how the night's going to go. Okay, well, we're going to have to get an Uber this, or to get picked up there, whatever, right? Uber. So you know that the stress is gone from the situation. You don't have to worry about like, dude, I'm gonna have like 11 and figure out how to get home. Like that's not gonna be fun. The first beer after you accidentally get messed up is like, oh, stress free. I'm getting messed up.
Yeah.
Number three.
That tingle in the toes that happens.
First
as soon
buzz
as
beer
You take
of
that
an accidental inebriation.
You take that one sip.
And you're like,
it's
you know it.
Oh man, here we go.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We're on the ride
Beautiful.
now. My number 3, I'm gonna go at a bar during an NFL pregame or tailgate. A tailgate of any kind. A tailgate beer.
Pre-NFL beer.
I mean,
Is it NFL or any sporting event?
I'm thinking about adjusting it on the fly and just going any event that you're tailgating at, just a tailgate beer.
Especially
A
sports.
country concert.
Yeah.
A Steeler game, a Penguin game, a Pirate game. It doesn't matter. If there is an
Yeah.
event going on and you're sitting on a truck bed drinking your 16th beer before you go into the venue because you have to, because you don't want to
There
go
are
spend
11
$85
Yep.
on beer the entire time you're in there. The tailgate beer, when you're trying to just pack it all in. You're shotgunning with strangers walking by.
I
They're
was
tossing
just
you random
I was just gonna say it's a perfect segue. When they toss you one, number 2 for me, free beer.
free beer.
If someone's giving you a free beer, that has to be the best beer.
Yeah, that's
Unless it is absolutely
Top tier.
downright the worst beer you've ever drank in your entire life. As long as it's free, there is something delicious about it.
Brother, we
Something
drank,
delicious
we
about it.
drank Genesis. That doesn't get any worse than that. That's what it is. Genesee.
Genesee, yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
That's horrible.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh man, you're in for such a treat later. Okay. Yes, Genesee is fantastic.
Is that what the?
That's exactly what it is.
Oh my god.
Yes,
that's amazing.
By the way, so yeah, in college we used to drink Genesee because Genesee is one of the cheapest beers, domestic beers that money can buy. So yeah, I would say number 2, free beer.
Okay. My number 2, I'm gonna go a beach beer. It's tough to beat when you're on vacation, especially now. I think we can relate to this now, having like real adult full-time jobs where you're there 40 hours a week and it doesn't change forever.
Right.
So, like, I'm looking forward to that. But you get that 1 week a year where you just don't have to answer to anybody, and you can just lay on a beach from the time the sun comes up in the morning until, the high tide comes in and sweeps you out at midnight.
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
You just lay there, and you do nothing except for Corona, lime, done, and just one after another,
Yeah.
and you don't leave your ass the entire time.
Yeah, no,
That's
I think my number one is a version of that, and it's just the first vacation beer. So the first, whether you're a pre-flight beer guy, right? So you pull up to the airport and you hit the airport bar before you get on the plane, whether it's as soon as you step off the plane when you actually get to your destination. If you're driving, it's because if you don't drive and you don't go right to a restaurant, I don't know how I feel about you, because I always would go right to a restaurant because you're probably hungry, you probably want a beer, you need to get up, stretch your legs a little bit. So first vacation beer, no matter where you're at, airport, first bar, whether you go straight to the beach and start drinking, whatever. The first one is just a different experience. It's a religious experience.
Yeah. I love that, especially like mine would probably be like when you get there, you take that first step out onto like the balcony or whatever you have, where
check
you
the view out,
overlook the pool or overlook the ocean, no matter
probably
what.
Probably late afternoon, early evening. The breeze is hitting you.
Yeah, it feels great. Like a 3 p.m., 4 p.m. beer on a balcony for the first day of vacation.
Stop, that's fantastic.
That's great. My number one, I'm gonna go bonfire beer. And there is a more like specified version of this, out of a cooler, but the cooler has to be about 45% water and the rest of it is ice. So it's like a cooler that's been sitting, but is so cold that when you pull it out, like there's the ice chip that's stuck on the top of it.
Yeah.
And it's like water, like you turn it, it's wet.
The can is wet.
It's dripping.
Yes.
And then you put it right in a koozie and you sit down and you're around the fire. It could be any time of the year. It doesn't matter. That is my happy place. You sit down, you have nothing to worry about, just nothing.
Yeah,
keep the fire burning and sit there and get. It doesn't matter if you sleep in the yard. You sleep in the yard.
These are all fantastic beers. I couldn't agree more with your list, my list. I think it's all fantastic.
Yeah,
I love it.
I love that. That was a good.
That was a good
segment.
That. I think we got to figure out a way to make it a little more prompt. But other than that, I think it was good.
I'm in the. I can't even tell what this show is anymore.
That's a good point. It all blends together.
I want to go drink now.
All right. Well, I mean,
we can make that happen. It's Thursday. It's draft day. We can celebrate.
Sure.
Guys, go watch the draft. It should be good. We're gonna be talking about these players pretty much all season, so familiarize yourself with them. I know I'll be trying to. As we get into who's going to be where for this NFL season, it should be good. We will be back next week to recap it all, kind of go over it and our thoughts and what we can expect from it. But for now, go follow the Instagram, go follow the TikTok, go on to SoBet and subscribe. The Issue on SoBet. Sign up. It's great. You're not going to be disappointed that you did. But other than that, guys, have a good one. And that was The Issue.